Hey everybody, it's Jack with Future Pastimes, and we are doing the Savage Board of Conan. We're going to have a discussion here. I'm joined by GJ and Jaded, and they were playtesters on this game, and they have they have sometimes more insights than I do. So it's good to have them in here. And today we're going to be talking about adventures. This is the Adventures of Conan, and I want to talk about why that triggered phase, the adventure phase, it's my favorite phase. And we want to talk about all the different things that can go on that are not explicitly listed in the rules. Some of like the deal making that you can do, and also clever use of fate tokens or even the god tokens in this phase. This is a very unique phase. I'm not aware of any other game that has a mechanism quite like this. There might be, and certainly let us know in the comments if you are aware of it. But I'll do a quick overview here of just how the phase works in general, and then we'll get into it. So what will happen is Conan will, in the previous phase, the main phase, will be trying to get to one of these kingdoms that has an adventure in it. So let's say that, he makes it to Tehran. And when you get to the triggered phases for adventures, you will say, yes, it is triggered because Conan is in a matching kingdom. So what will happen is you will look at the player order. So if we're going clockwise here from Conan in a 3P game, the ally would go first in this example because they're seated clockwise. So they would roll their dice, and then Conan looks at their results and decides if to use some, any, or none of these dice to help complete the adventure. So with this particular roll, in fact, let's do that right here. So in this particular roll, these character results are unusable. There are never any character results on the adventures. So we have a move which Conan could use because there is a move, and we have a wild which Conan can use for anything. So Conan has to decide if he wants to use these dice, and for each die that is selected, that player is going to get what did we decide that was? He's going to get victory points listed on the card. So in this particular one, Flesh for the Gods, it's only 1 point per die. This one here, the face on the coin, would be 2 points, and the Witch Shall Be Born, it's 3 points. So Conan is like, well, I'm only giving away 1 point, so yeah, I will use this die here, and I will use the wild, and he has to decide what the wild is going to be, and he'll say like, yeah, let's pick a scry. After that, then the next player rolls. And so is this our result here? So if this is the result, the same thing. These characters are no good. This one, it's already been chosen, so not good here. And this is a wild as well. And this is a big decision for Conan because he doesn't have to pick any dice from anybody, especially if, let's say, the foe is very far ahead in the victory points. So he might be like, I don't want to even give you 1 point. So he'll decide he's not going to choose any of those. But that means that he has got to get the final 2 results on his dice. If he's got 4 dice, well, he's got a wild on his general dice. So that could be anything. And he has a thief on here as well. And he has a scry on one side of these dice. So there's a 1 in 6 chance here, 1 in 3 chance here. I don't know how I would feel about those odds, but let's just say for laughs, we're going to do it. So we would roll that and we'd see how he did. And here, yeah, he got the one that he needed, but he didn't get the other one. So the next step is if Conan doesn't, if it's not completed by the time Conan either needs to roll or has rolled, you go check again in that same order. Were there any dice that could have been chosen by the ally? No. Were there any that could have been chosen by the foe? In this case, yes. And so because Conan does not have the agency here, the foe does, they place their die, and they are the ones, if it's the last symbol, they've completed this, which means they get the card. Also, the foe, and this is a little nuance of the game, if anybody else had completed this, all the dice would be scored. And so let's say that Conan did roll what he needed here. He got that. He would get 2 points, and the ally would get 2 points, and that would be great for them. But anytime the foe is the last one, only the foe's dice will score. So these other characters get nothing. The foe would get 1 point. They would get the card. Now, they're not in Tehran, so they wouldn't get these rewards this round. But if in the future, if they move to Tehran, they would get those rewards, and they could stay there and just get them every round. Just move up on Thief and gain any fate token. So that's how this phase works. And just for clarification, if nobody had finished it, you would then roll all the available dice. So let's say these two were applied, and they would get to roll again, and you do this one more time. Can Conan use any of these dice? In this case, still no. Then the foe would roll, then Conan would roll, and if nobody finishes it after 2 attempts, then it's discarded and nobody gets anything. But usually on two go arounds here, you're able to finish, and usually on one. Most of the time, one go around is enough. But there's a number of interesting things that can be done, and at this point, I will turn it over to my esteemed panel to start talking about the tips and tricks and other interesting fun facts.
Well, I'll go ahead and say that these are the titular Adventures of Conan, and as you might expect from that, this really is the focus of the whole game. All the benefits that you're trying to get during the resource phase, when you're choosing your gods and you're making your plot roll, at the end of the day, in most cases, the most effective place to use those is going to be during an adventure because it's like the most consistent avenue for scoring points. And when you score points, you'll move up on that track, and there's all sorts of bonuses up there that you'll collect as you move up. So, consistently scoring points is going to be the best way to start ramping up and building your engine and being able to buy more dice and get more fate tokens every turn. And so, doing well in this phase, most important thing there is. And so, the whole main phase, you're going around the board and doing things and rolling dice and trading our abilities. It's really just how can I get myself most poised for success in the adventure phase. And I think it might seem kind of complicated, and there might be a lot of phases and a lot of ways you have to use your dice, but at the end of the day, it's all in service of the adventure phase. So I think that kind of focuses the game in a beneficial way.
And the beautiful thing is that everyone is involved in it as well. Like, be the Conan that actually wants to do it, be the ally that wants to do it, but on their terms, or be the foe that wants to try and prevent Conan from even coming close to an adventure most of the time. Everyone is just involved. Everyone is pointing their eyes on these little tokens on the board and saying, well, how can I get where I want to be? How can I end the turn in a position that puts me in the most favorable situation possible? And all the tokens you get, as Jaded said, are just going to be mostly used for this phase. At least that's what we do, and we recommend people do. If you have a stash of fate tokens, you probably want to save it up because, as Jack mentioned earlier, if someone didn't roll all the required results and Conan doesn't choose them, and you have a bunch of fate tokens saved up, you can quickly just complete the adventure all by yourself.
Yeah, I
Cool, you
want to
get all the
get
points. You
zero
get
in on that a little bit. But first,
yeah.
we talked about, the foe typically is trying to keep Conan from going to an adventure, and that's because if Conan doesn't make it, he's like, oh, I got as far as Zamora, but I couldn't get there. The foe moves up on the plot track for points. They don't get the rewards, but let's say they're here and they're getting to move up. They're like, boom, I've moved up to get unlock a free die, which is nice. And if they're here and they move up, that's 4 points. If they're here and they move up, that's 5 points. And they've just triggered the end of the game. So it's no small thing. But the good thing about it is a lot of times Conan's still going to be able to get there. And that also is, in many cases, still okay for the foe. It's kind of win-win for the foe. If Conan doesn't make it, they get something. If they do make it, they can still usually get some points. It just depends. And a lot of it will depend on how the foe and Conan are on the victory point. So when the foe gets ahead of Conan, Conan is reluctant to give points to the foe, and that may also work out to the foe's advantage, as it did in our example here. Because if Conan gets a little bit too ambitious, then the foe can sometimes swoop in. And so, but now I want to talk a little bit about the use of these fate tokens. So it's been mentioned that saving these up for the adventures is pretty critical. Certainly you can use them. Like I, as the foe, will sometimes use them just to move up on the plot track because I like to be farther down that track if I can, as the foe especially. And sometimes you're like, oh, we're doing an encounter, and if I spend this, it'll complete the encounter. There's definitely going to be other times when you want to use these, but here's why saving them for the adventures is really critical. So in this example, let's say Conan has these too, so he knows he's got 2 guaranteed successes. And even if he doesn't roll these symbols, he knows he can change his dice to those results. So now there's only 2 things that he needs. And if you get a situation where, let's say the ally rolls a wild, and you can be like, great, let's put this down as the one thing that I do need. And now if Conan doesn't want to use any dice of the foe, because let's say the foe has also, rolled a wild, Conan at least has increased his odds. He can roll a scry on his orange dice, his primary dice. He can roll wilds on here. So he's got four chances here. It's still not great odds, but it's better odds. And here, again, if he's like, that's fine, I'll give you the 1 point. I don't like to move you up anymore, but I want to guarantee success. Right now, Conan has a guaranteed success. It doesn't even matter what he rolls. So if he does roll something he can use, he's going to basically save. So here I've saved both of my tokens because I did roll what I needed, but it's good to have that insurance there that you can change it if you have to. But let's change this up here to the foe has them. So we'll just put these here by the foe's dice. The foe has these results. And so let's say that Conan has not chosen any of the, in fact, we'll make it even easier. Like hardly any of these results can be used. So let's say Conan makes his roll and he's like, well, I've got a scry here, but I don't have the other results. And in fact, we're going to make this even more. So we check in. And again, we want to make this the perfect example. We can't use any of these things. And now we check in and we say, well, can we use any of the foe's dice? And initially it's no, but the foe can say, well, look, I can do this right now, which means that we have to use these dice, which means that the foe just completed this adventure. And so this was critical. Now, what could have happened earlier is, let's say before Conan rolls at all, Conan is like, I haven't rolled yet. The foe, the ally rolled and we used 1 die, and this was the foe's roll. Conan and the foe can come to an arrangement. Conan can say, all right, I'll tell you what. If you use these fate tokens right now to change 2 of your dice, I'll use those dice right now. So the foe is like, all right, I'll take the guaranteed 2 points. And now it's a situation where, again, Conan only needs the 1 result. And if he doesn't get it, nobody can swoop in. Everyone will just get a roll to roll again. And so this is, it's fostering a little bit of cooperation, but it's a legal move. You're allowed, as Conan, you're allowed to say, hey, you change those dice now, I'll definitely use them. And as the foe, you're allowed to say, nope, sorry, Conan, you roll your dice, because I have a feeling that you're going to apply something here. And that's the thing, is when Conan rolls, if this was his roll here, well, let's say not this, let's say that everything else is garbage. Conan is like, well, I'll do that. And this would probably, in fact, let's not even do that. Let's really do this as a good example. Conan has rolled this. He has to use this, which means that the foe who saved his fate tokens can do that to complete it. So these are all legal moves. Conan can't decide, I'm not using my die. Has to use his dice if his results are done. Same thing when we do the check-in, if you have a successful result. So let's say Conan didn't choose this wild. We're checking in. The ally has to use it, but the ally gets to decide what it is. So the ally might say, well, I know that the foe is going to be able to change 2 of these with fate tokens, so I'm going to block this with my die here, which means that all the foe can do is add a thief, which means we haven't completed it, which means we'll get to roll 1 more time. So that's also a legal move, because at this point, the ally has the agency when it's deciding where the die is going to go. They have to use a die if they can, but with the wild, they can decide where it goes. So some interesting distinctions, and I don't know why these are so small. Let's make those a little bit bigger so they match everyone else's. But yeah, that just shows the value of these fate tokens. They can be really useful. And if Conan has got all of these, he knows I don't need to use anybody's dice, which is why maybe he wants to go to a 3-point adventure. Again, if Conan has some or all of these symbols in fate tokens, this is why the fate tokens are so valuable. Conan can be like, yeah, I'm going to rack up some points right here, which is why you want to make sure that Conan doesn't go to this adventure as the ally and the foe, you want to throw some challenge tokens there, and the ally can just move Conan to be like, let's move over to this one where maybe you don't have all the symbols that you need. So a lot to consider, but that's, I think, what makes the game interesting.
Yeah, it really kind of creates this both cooperative and also antagonistic scenario because you could just, put fate tokens on your dice beforehand and say, hey, Conan, come on, use them at least. And then at least we can all get some points. Or you could hold them in your pocket, hope that Conan can't do it, and then use it later on to swoop in and snipe that win. But if nobody can get all the results, then nobody gets any points. And then it's like, well, shoot. It's like, almost even a little bit of a prisoner's dilemma, trying to push your luck for more points at the risk of getting none. And at the end of the day, the foe could in one roll get all the results needed. But if Conan is the one to choose to use them, Conan is still the one to complete the adventure. So that's kind of the trouble with that. And then why it's especially helpful for you to have those fate tokens, not only that you can guarantee to get the results you need, but also the ability to be able to complete the adventure only on your terms, only if you use those fate tokens on your dice to change the results. Or hell, I don't know what world you would do this, but you might even use a fate token to change the success to a fail just to stop the adventure from being completed. That would be kind of crazy.
Yeah, also legal. You can definitely do that.
I mean, it could make sense since if an adventure is not completed, like nobody really gets anything out of it. So if you don't want someone to really go far ahead and you're just so close and chasing them, I can totally see it being something I may consider doing at some point, especially as the foe more than anyone else. But yeah, I agree that the adventures are the reason to play this game. Like you're starting every single turn and you're immediately looking at, okay, well, what do I need? Where do I need to go? Especially as Conan or the ally, they're already going to start thinking and talking about, well, which adventure do you want to go for? Do you have any ideas? Do we want to sail to Turan? Do we want to walk somewhere? Should we make it take a boat and then walk a bit? Should we do something? And most of the time the ally will come well like follow what Conan wants to do, but he doesn't have to. The ally is totally fine to say, well, actually, we are going to another place, maybe because they don't want Conan to do that specific adventure that Conan has all the fate tokens for. So the ally with 3 moves and 2 characters can just move the entire map and go to an adventure that they can complete easier. And you see this dynamic of the ally never really being properly an ally. It's more like a moral support sometimes,
Yeah,
And
which
not,
makes for very, very interesting interactions.
some of the discussions that take place during the adventure phase are just like hilarious because at the end of the day, for that first go around, Conan is the arbiter of the points. He's got to
Mhm.
balance uh, how many points he wants to give away versus his own hubris at what he thinks he can get himself. And in most cases, you don't want the foe to be doing much better than the ally or the ally to be doing much better than the foe. You kind of want to keep them in check. So it almost feels like as Conan, you got like an angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. It's just like, come
Yeah.
on, Conan, use my dice. Look
yeah,
how far ahead the ally is.
more like
Let
two
them get too
devils.
powerful and they'll control you outright. Yeah, probably more two devils is like it.
Exactly. Now, in this example here, these are all adventures that have 5 results, which means that a lot of times, even if Conan does, a lot of times, especially in the early game, Conan only going to have 4 dice. So even in these circumstances, having all the fate tokens, he's still going to have to get somebody else along. But even when that's not the case, or especially when Conan does have more dice, that is when unlocking encounters and some clever use of certain challenge tokens, especially like the fights, and when you're going to use those. The whole point really there is an attempt to weaken Conan. You want to get Conan to suffer a wound. Most of these encounters are going to have a wound as the result, and so both the ally and the foe should be looking at how they can leverage encounters and challenges to get to the point where Conan is maybe down a die or two. Because then it doesn't matter how many fate tokens he has, he's really forced to rely on the other players, especially if, like, all right, this one right here, the one on the wall, it's 2 points per die. So if Conan only has 2 dice, the most he can hope to get is 4. He's given away 6 points at least to one or the other, both players. But the reward here is he gets to advance on Pirate and Warrior. And if he's already way up on there, he's gaining 3 gold, that's a free die. And he would also get to scry a challenge token, which is, all right, that's a nice bonus. But this moving up on 2 tracks at the same time is a big deal, especially if in the next round, if Conan is like, I'm having a hard time getting to the adventure I want to get to, maybe I just stay in Shem or make my way back to Shem, because even though the foe is going to move up 1 spot on that plot track for free, me being able to advance on 2 achievements at the same time could equal 10 points or, an additional 8 more points if they both get up to King Conan. And so you got to really, as Conan, you got to start weighing that. And you need to pay attention to that, of course, as the ally with, like, I got to make sure that not only does Conan not stay in Shem, but I got to get him, if he's down dice, I got to get him over to Quran, where I can get 3 points per die for my dice on this one. And he's only going to get to advance on Warrior. He'll make somebody lose 2 points, but ultimately I think I'll probably do better there. So a lot to consider. And you're as these other players, you're looking for, all right, how can we take advantage of the situation? How can we get to the point where we've unlocked encounters? But that's part of why you have multiple ways to do certain things. So the foe, they didn't roll a sorcery, but they can deploy a character to sorcery. So they have a couple of ways of cycling encounters. And in terms of moving Conan, the ally can use the move action, they can use a wild, and they can also deploy. So they have 3 different ways. And technically there's a 4th way, because if you do a scry action, you can spend a gold to do a move action. So there's 4 ways to move, and that move action is they can move Conan. It's any legal move. So the Conan really has to make it the allies worthwhile, or they're wasting their own dice, just doing a tug of war, moving Conan back and forth between 2 kingdoms. They'd be like, I'm moving you here, and I'm moving myself out, or vice versa. So there's that's going to be a factor as well, and it's a matter of maybe there's something else we can do with those dice. Like maybe I want to advance on some achievements and let you do the moving, or the other way around. So there's a lot of options to do what you want to do, and it's just a matter of figuring out, all right, how can I best optimize my other dice, and then take advantage of the fact that maybe Conan will be wounded, and I can get more points.
I think it's important to know that every single character, be it a life or Conan, has unique ways to interact with the phase and to set up for it. Like if you're Conan, you obviously want to beeline towards an adventure sooner or later. You can greed a little bit if you are confident in your ability to get yourself to one. As the ally, you want to talk to Conan and kind of convince him to go to an adventure that favors you more than him. And as the foe, you kind of want both Conan to not go to an adventure and him to go to an adventure he can't complete alone. Because you want to make the most out of both worlds. And if you go up the plot, it's awesome, obviously. But if you make him go to an adventure, I don't know, in the Eastern Desert maybe, that it's a terrible place to go out of, or in an adventure that requires a ton of scries and sorceries, results that you as the foe are really well poised to actually roll immediately, then you can convince Conan to use more river dice because he has a harder time to actually do something. Then you have encounters, and then you have the beloved challenge tokens that you can place in a ton of places that maybe make Conan go, well, actually Coraja now doesn't look that enticing. Maybe I'll go to the Eastern Desert instead.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? There's Turan up here. Why not just make a visit there? Because you never know what this is. This could be gold, this could be a Temple of Set, this could be a 4 fight, and you're going to probably get wounded twice. This could be anything. And you as the foe have an immense power of just saying, well, Conan, how about you look somewhere else? How about you don't come around here?
Yeah, it's kind of, again, it's another win-win situation. You might deter Conan from going to a kingdom where he has one or more fate tokens, or it's results that are easier for Conan to roll. Like if this adventure has a lot of warriors, Conan is like, I that's the easiest thing for me to roll. And this adventure might have some sorceries where he's like, I'm probably going to have to use some faux dice for that one. But if Conan is like, I'm going here anyway, and this is a token that might end up wounding him or weakening him, he might lose a fate token. So, I mean, in this case, it was this is a heist, which Conan needs to form a thief pool. So it's like a fight, but he's trying to roll thieves, which is a little bit more challenging. If he fails, he'll be wounded. If he succeeds, he'll get 3 points and a gold, which will be nice. But if it's late in the phase, there's a good chance that Conan can't even form a thief pool here, or he might only have one die. And, if he only has that one die, he's got a 1 in 3 chance of getting it, and he'll have to roll it 3 times in a row if that's his only die. So the odds are not really in his favor, especially later in the phase. So that's the thing. It's thinking about when to do this. You're trying to get a sense of where's Conan going. He's going here, and let's say he's already made it here, and you like, I'm going to play this here. And I'm going to let him know, Conan, if on your turn you don't move into Eastern Desert, I'm moving this into this with my move action and forcing you to deal with it. So you can, and of course, you could probably do the same. You're not, there's no binding deals, but you can be like,
Yep.
I won't do it. I'll do some other action. I'll steal a gold or whatever the case may be. But yeah, there's quite a few options that the players have. So it's about looking at the board state, looking at what the other players can do. That's a critical thing. If this is the thing, like right here, Conan could form a thief pool with both of these dice. This one's not going to roll anything. It doesn't have the thief, so he'd probably only use this one die. But let's say that that's what he's rolled. He can't form a thief pool with this unless he has like a thief token, which maybe he doesn't even want to spend. So chances are this challenge token here is going to wound Conan, which is good. That's what you as the foe want to do. If he's going to do an adventure, you want Conan to have not as many dice so that, again, he is relying on you, and it also makes it more likely that you're going to be able to swoop in and complete that adventure and take away all the rewards from Conan and leave him and his ally with no victory points either.
And then there's even duels as a tool for preventing that. There's can very often be the case where Conan just has a bunch of characters and no moves, and potentially even no warriors. And if you've rolled, one or two warriors, you could say, "I'm gonna go and fight Conan," and force him to deploy some of those characters to a warrior to stop me from getting an easy victory on this duel. And then it's either lose the duel and now I move you somewhere that's even further away from the adventure, or use too many of those characters and now you're all out of dice you can use to move with, and you've got to cajole your ally to spend some of their move dice on you and get you within range of an adventure.
Yeah, it's I've seen that they had that exact move. Somebody they went in to force Conan to use up dice. He was planning to just sit here in Shem and spend warriors to just cruise up the warrior track. And the foe was like, let's see if we can't get you to spend some of those dice. And that's exactly what happened. They used like 3 of their dice, and all 3 of them got spent. So he didn't have any warriors left to move up. Even though he won the duel, so Tothamon's like, all right, I lost. I had 5 dice. Now I have 4. And you moved me, maybe over to here or maybe back where I started from. But you used up a bunch of your dice just to fight that fight. So that was a pretty good tactical move for the foe in that round. And it just meant that Conan couldn't achieve what he wanted to, literally. And, you might have been able to then also find a way. If he'd been lucky, you would have wounded him as well. And that would have been nice. Wound him, force him to spend another die. Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, but of course Conan is at the end of the day the king of winning fights. So you may try a audacious
Mhm.
play and have it blow up in your face, as was immortalized on the channel. earlier.
Yeah. On our big play tests, the guy who was playing the foe, I think Greg was playing Conan, and Conan
Yeah.
had one die, and the foe had 5 dice for his warrior pool. And Conan ended up winning that duel and probably getting like 3 points. So because he just kept rolling that double warrior over and over again, and Greg was like, "I can't. This never happens to me." And I was like, "Yeah, it's clearly something is wrong." But yeah, it was.
We
It's
need to fix
just.
it.
It is a dice game, so sometimes the dice do not go your way. So you have to be,
No.
you have to be considerate about those things. But the foe felt like it was a good time to try that, and it was. That was probably one of the best times to attempt that duel, because they were loaded for bear, but they just could not roll anything good. Now, if they'd had some fate tokens, that might have helped out as well. And that might be a case where you're like, man, maybe I do use these warriors, or maybe I do use my set god token to change one of these to warriors just to keep it going. I don't think that would have even helped him in that. And that was Connor in
No,
that
probably
particular
not.
duel.
No.
Conan rolled like 4 double warriors in a row, and Connor crapped out on the first roll. He didn't roll a single warrior. So one, it would have been 1 against 2, and then Greg re-rolled and got 2 more, and it was just like, well, that's that. Duel is over.
I just want to closing thoughts. It's like you as Conan, and you have 3 adventures almost always available to you. How do you choose which one to go for? Because like at the end of the day, you are the one that makes this choice. Sure, the ally can intervene, but you as Conan have the agency of saying, "Well, I want to go there. I'm well geared. How do I choose which adventures to go for? How do you two choose which adventures to go?"
For me, in the early game, I'm always trying to go to just a 1 point adventures if I can, because again, I'm happy to use the other player's dice for some or all of the results just so I can get the reward. That's usually worth it to me. Like on this one, it's 1 point. Here, I would advance on warrior, which is nice. The first time you advance on warrior, you get to roll the local kingdom die, and it's just 1, 2, 3. It's 4 spaces, and you've unlocked a free die. So it's not that far to get. So every chance I can get to move up is great. And then here you can either decide to roll the savage die twice or advance on the plot track. And so advancing on the plot track, that'll get you a point or more, depending on where you are. Later in the game, it's a matter of, am I collecting these fate tokens? And if I am, then I'm going for 3 point adventures. But the rewards is the other thing, because sometimes, again, if you're willing to use the other people's dice, especially if you can spread it out. Here, if it's 5 results, if I'm giving away 4 points to one player, 4 points to another, or maybe getting 2 points for me, it's only 2 point difference between us all. But it might be worth it to me for this double advance right there. So it just depends on what else I'm trying to achieve. The more of my tokens I can get to the halfway point, that's 5 points each, and I've got that free die. It's much easier for Conan to get a free die on the achievement track than it is on the plot track. Plot track is usually it's easier for the foe, and that's the main reason why, as a foe, I'm trying to find every way I can get up there, and I'm using my fate tokens and god tokens during the plot roll in the resource phase to move up. I'm spending character dice as the foe to move up in the main phase, especially early on, because again, it's just 1 die for these spaces. It's only 2 dice on these spaces, and then if I can stop Conan from doing an adventure, that's a third way I can move up. So it's, for me as a foe, it's a race to get to this space on this card. In most plots, it's going to be chapter 3 that has that free die. It's much harder for the foe to move up on this achievement track. And again, as the ally, I'm trying to do both of those things, because I'm like, you know what, maybe I will move up on the plot track with some of my characters, since Conan has all the dice he needs to move. Maybe I don't need to waste my dice moving. So, and then the ally, of course, can move up in these achievements just as easily as Conan. So as choosing adventures, it's going to be about the rewards first and foremost, but the point values, it'll just depend on how many dice I feel like I have to use from another player.
Jaded, any different?
I can't really say anything that hasn't been said already.
Yeah, that just so people know, because one thing I see, and I can imagine many people kind of being scared about, is the pressure of being Conan and making that decision. It's since as Jaded said at the beginning, well, the adventure phase is the one that the entire turn hinges around. So you deciding, well, we are doing this, maybe, I think, I hope, and just getting some ideas of, well, why would I go here? Why would I go there? I think can help all newer players. Because I know that when I learned this game, that was one of the biggest things that actually, once it clicked, it helped so much.
The other
Well,
thing is proximity too. In that main phase, if I'm here and I'm one kingdom away from Karaja, this might not really be the adventure that I want to do. But it is close, especially if I've rolled a lot of warriors and thieves, and I'm like, I can spend like 3 or 4 turns just spending dice to move up on these tracks, and then maybe the ally or I'll use my last die to just move into Karaja. And so I'm doing that adventure not because of the adventure, but because of what else I can do during that main phase. And just moving up on those achievements is, there's a lot of kingdoms where you can do it, but there's just about as many where you can't move up. And you're in the middle here. You're like, I can't move up on this kingdom or this kingdom or this kingdom. Here only on the thief track, only on the thief track. So what you can do and where, it's going to be determined by your dice rolls. And so it may be that like you don't want to spend 3 dice just to try to get to a kingdom way over here, when you're closer to another one that maybe is not as good. But if you can optimize your dice roll for that turn, like here, if I've rolled, this is what I've rolled. I want to move up on thief once if I can, but the rest of these, I can't advance. I can't advance on an achievement, so maybe I am moving. There might be a kingdom effect that I want to use, or if I've got some gold, I can scry and then spend a gold to move. So I've got 2 ways to move, depending on these dice rolls, even without the help of an ally.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it is the Adventures of Conan. Whatever Conan is doing at any given time is always of maximum interest to their players. And I think that also helps with, for example, when I first started playing this game, I wasn't the most familiar with the Conan universe. But of course, everybody knows who Conan is. Like, come on. And so even though I might have known who all the other characters are, you can always contextualize it against what Conan is doing. Conan is trying to complete this adventure, and I'm Totham on, and I'm trying my damnedest to stop him. And so I think that keeps it always interesting, regardless of your familiarity with the universe.
Yeah, and if you do know Conan, to me it feels like it's ripped right out of the pages, especially like out of the pages of a Dark Horse comic book adventure, because this is literally the cover art for these exact adventures. So that's a nice, and I guess it just feels very episodic and like, yeah, I've made my way over to Nordheim so that I can do this adventure, and I get those qualities of the adventure. So yeah, there's, like I say, with any dice game, there's a certain level of abstraction, but there's a lot in here that does feel like the kind of trials and tribulations that Conan is going through, or those who would deem to oppose him.
And that is worth saying. As I've delved into some of the books, reading the original stories, I'm like, this actually does feel bang on. Not to sound super biased, but it's like this feels pretty accurate. You're hearing some story about Conan is in this kingdom, and there's some trouble brewing in this one to the north, and he recruits these people from the guys to the east to help him solve this problem. And it's like, I could totally imagine what the similar moves on the board here would have looked like.
Yeah. That time Conan did a heist and got wounded. So there you have it. If you've been wondering about adventures and the best way to capitalize on things, hopefully this has opened up your eyes a little bit on that. And let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about the adventure phase or questions on anything in particular. We're happy to have another Savage Board of Conan to discuss it and give you some tips and tricks, some strategies, and other things to think about. We didn't really go into the gods too much, but again, this is like the last big thing to do in the phase. And one of my big strategies, again, is when I've got God tokens, is I look at the scoring track, because in the next round, whoever is last is going to be picking gods first. So if I am still going to be a little bit behind, I'm going to use the really good gods. I'm going to use Zath to maybe move up on the points, or use Set to get what I need, knowing that I'll get Set again. Hopefully using Zath means that I'm firing ahead, way ahead of somebody, and I'm getting a lot of points. But also, again, if you've got Zath, you want to wait till you're like, yeah, I know I can use 3 of these. That's going to be 6 points, which doubled is 12 points. And that could be a big deal for helping you to trigger the end game and hopefully get victory on there. But the careful use of the gods will definitely impact how to get through this thing. Knowing that you've got the Set token, for instance, and you can be like, I can change this die at any time to whatever result that I need, and that can be a big deal. And again, anytime you have agency is when you can play it. So that's that. Anyone else got anything?
I think we covered everything. I think people now should know that the game is good by now. I think we like it, that it's fun, that
I
the
can
adventures
comfortably say
are.
that the game is good.
Yeah, I think as well. Not no bias at all. But I think the adventures are definitely the most interesting part as well. Especially because this is the moment where the entire table comes together. Everyone is involved at all times. There's indecently expert, like with people that have more than a couple of games of experience. They are going to just talk. They're going to make deals, even if they're not binding. They're just going to tell Conan, well, look, this guy is almost winning. Well, how about you use my dice instead? And then there's going to be back and forth. And that's just fun. That's
Yeah.
what really makes this game shine for me.
I just love that tension when you're in a situation like this where Conan, he needs 3 warriors. The foe has rolled 1, and Conan is like, I'm not using it because I don't want to give you that point. I think I can roll 3 warriors, and just, that tension of like, all right, here we go. How did I do? And you're like, well, you didn't roll any. So you're like, what? How did I not roll a single one? And so that actually is probably good. But let's say Conan, he rolled, the double.
warrior.
Where's the double? There it is.
There it
He's
is.
got to use it, and then boom, the foe comes in with the last one, and you're like, no, Conan, you should have used it before. And like, I got greedy. I wanted 3 points instead of 2. And in fact, this one, he would only get 1 point, but because the foe is on there, he's getting no points. So this double doesn't give you 2 points. It only gets per die, so it's only 1 die. But it would have been 2 of those on there. And if he had rolled, another warrior, let's say he rolled that, he would have been okay. With that roll, that would have been the 3 warriors he needed for 2 points. But he got greedy, and that's the best. I recommend that the Conan player always be greedy and trying to get the most points, because that is the most tense. And the other players are like, oh. But once Conan gets to the point, if you let Conan get to the point where he's stacked up some good fate tokens and he's got a couple of gods, and he's like, don't even bother rolling. Because, maybe I've got what on here, but I'm definitely going to get everything I need, even if I have to spend fate tokens to do it. And here he would have to spend fate tokens because he didn't roll anything he can use. Once again, Conan, what gives? You're supposed to be kicking butt here at the back of the North Wind, but you are lazing around. You're stealing gold and pirating a little bit. Yeah, this is slightly better. One better. Whoop. So all right. So that's it, everyone. Again, let us know your comments, and let us know what else you'd like us to see a video on, and we will join forces to do that. That's it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.